Hey everybody, welcome to the Botanical Biohacking Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Miles. Today I'm going to cover 10 questions to help you get started and discover your niche in herbal medicine. I get asked this question a lot. People say, well, I'm an acupuncturist, but I'm not an herbalist. I've never studied herbs. Or they're a naturopath or a chiropractor and they say, herbs look really interesting. I just don't know where to start. And I'm increasingly hearing this among MDs as well. So this is how to get started in a safe and responsible way so that you can do your best work for people you genuinely care about. So first of all, why are we going to start with a niche? Why not just start general? This is because we want to reduce variables. It's like putting your thumb on a hose. It makes your success and efficiency attainable because you're able to focus on a very select group of people and a select challenge. The wider your vantage point, the less you're actually seeing. I know people who have an answer for every problem, theoretically, and they can quote old books and they can quote research, yet their impact on alleviating suffering in their community is really negligible. It's very unlikely that they're doing very much at all compared to a personal trainer who's actually helping people's health to improve. So if we want to make a significant impact, help a lot of people, and practice with very high value, then it's important to look at some key questions. I've had a lot of requests to make an online program for practitioners to follow, but instead what I decided to do was put this into a podcast to help get the main ideas across through a series of 10 questions to help you get started. So the first question is, who are your people? Who are you and where do you fit into society? Where is the hole in the world shaped just like you? This is very easy to ask. It is incredibly difficult to answer. And the rest of the questions may help to direct this search because ultimately not all of us have a story where it's, we've had some major impact which has motivated us. Some of us do. I saw a man who made a device to prevent drowning because he saw his friend drown. Many people get into medicine and health because they've had to overcome something or have been very close with someone who's been touched by an illness that frustrated them and really narrowed their focus into healthcare in order to almost retroactively help the person they couldn't. A lot of very beautiful things come out of this very dark place and frustration that we feel. So who are your people? These are the people you're genuinely connecting with. If you don't connect with a certain tribe of people, don't try to fake your way in. It's just not going to work. You're going to be disingenuous and your micro expressions are going to give you away. You're not going to really click. Your motor neurons aren't going to be, your mirror neurons aren't going to be firing in sync with the person you're trying to create rapport with. So who are your people? You can start by looking at who they are not. So if you're not interested in working with a certain group of people, be honest with yourself and say, you know what? I really don't want to work with British aristocracy or Brazilian soccer players. Whatever the group is, just be honest, because if you're not going to mesh well with this group, if you don't legitimately care about their pressing wants and needs, you're not going to do your best work serving them. So who are your people and where is it that you're going to fit into society? Question number 2. Discover their main perceived needs and desires. So once you find your overall group of people, maybe it's your local church, maybe it's Mormon math teachers. If you make it so ridiculously specific as to say Mormon math teachers, there are enough Mormon math teachers that if you just serve this niche online and in person, you could do quite well. So discover their main perceived needs and desires. This isn't what you know that they need, it's what they perceive that they need and have a burning desire to alleviate some problem in their life. You can do this as well by looking at demographic research. If you can look at maybe a city and then see, okay, I'm going to be helping uh, Jewish ladies in New York who are over 60. There's demographic research that you can get started with looking at people in New York over the age of 60 and females over the age of 60 to get an idea for what kind of diseases they may be having. Another wonderful tool is to use a keyword search and search for what people are actually searching for. It's very easy to assume, well, older ladies in New York probably are afraid of stroke. Well, that might not be the case until they actually have one. So it's important to look not only at what your demographic needs, but what they desire and what they're actively looking for. Another way to do this is to just interview people who are in your target ideal range and ask them to introduce you to others as well so you can interview them. So if you're interviewing black male truck drivers aged 35 to 60 in the Midwest, they're more likely than not going to know each other. Really, the more you have a minority group, the more cohesive that group will be and the more interconnected they'll be. So I'll give you an example. I treated a lot of West Africans while I was in British Columbia, Canada. They kind of knew each other from the mosque or from, wherever they were meeting up. I also treated groups of Albanians. You might think, wow, there's probably not a lot of Albanians in, say, Victoria, British Columbia. However, the ones that were there, they did know each other. They really did all know each other. So the more you can focus in on a specific niche, and particularly if that group is maybe a little more of a minority, the more likely they are to know each other. The better off people do, the less likely they are to know each other. I mean, just because you know one white person from America doesn't mean that they know your Aunt Sally, who's also a white person in America. So the better off people are doing, the less likely they are to know each other. The more oppressed the group, the more cohesive they'll be. So that's a great way to also look for very underserved populations. And just because they may be underserved doesn't mean they don't have a burning desire to pay you for your services and products in order to alleviate their pressing needs. In my experience, they are often very, very happy if they have people who are paying attention to the group, which is otherwise underrepresented. So once you find your group of people, once you find what their burning perceived needs and desires are, then you're going to take it to Chinese grandma level. So this is if you just ask a Chinese grandmother, hey, my stomach hurts, what should I take? And they show you something in Chinatown and say, yeah, we always take this, and it fixes it right up. That's the level we're going to start at. It's going to be really, really simple. When I first started doing Chinese medicine, my Kung Fu and Chinese medicine teacher told me, okay, you're going to only treat people who are over 60 years old, and 50% of them have chronic constipation. That's all you're going to treat. And I said, what about headache? What about this? He said, no, you're only going to treat constipation because even you can't screw that up. And I thought, wow, great, thanks. But it turned out to be a real blessing because my success rate was through the roof. Many of the herbal products I was using already have an 80 to 90% success rate. Then I was using acupuncture with it. Then I was doing stomach massage, teaching them to do stomach massage and deep breathing. So within 15 minutes, the chronic constipation problems would go away. And this really increased what I call my clinical mojo. It's really difficult to keep going. If, let's say, you decide, well, I'm going to treat leukemia with acupuncture and cure it. Well, first of all, to the best of my knowledge, that is completely impossible. From both a traditional and evidence-based standpoint, it can't be done. So far. I'll just throw that out there, okay? If you went out and tried to use an unreasonable tool for an unreasonable disease, it will be demoralizing because you're going to have a hard time looking people in the eye saying, this is what's best for you. And if you can't do that with complete confidence, they won't have complete confidence in you. So you've got to get that clinical mojo up by providing exceptional value. Aim for something that is really easy, and then keep it very, very simple. You don't have to do everything that you can do. You only need to do what is necessary. And this requires taking the patient or client's point of view rather than your own ego's point of view, which wants to flex how great and mighty you are. Wow, there was this great disease and I chopped it down. I mean, honestly, I've done really great things with cancer. Does that mean that I'm going out saying, hey, I can do great things with cancer all the time? No, because the overall success rate is low. And it's important for personal clinical mojo and integrity that you're not cherry picking. I could easily get a few video testimonials saying, that I walk on water because I cured really odd diseases. But realistically, those are outliers. And we need to be very honest, keep it very simple, and look at the Chinese grandma level. If most Chinese grandmas know how to fix it, then that means the product or method is really well known, it's really simple, and it's going to work. And that's something that you can start to investigate. Now, the next question follows up with this is there evidence? Pharmacology of this herbal formula that maybe Chinese grandmothers swear by, the pharmacology can provide you with a reasonable explanation of action. Clinical trials will let you know which side effects to expect. So I often see with natural health products, people say, no side effect reported ever. What this means is that it has not been studied, and it is not well understood. Because if you go to the jungles of Mexico or South America and you find a traditional herbalist, they'll tell you the side effects and when it is not useful. When people say it's natural and it's always good, red flags go up, and they should go up because that's a strong sign of BS. It's either a sign that the practitioner or a person giving you the herbs is completely naive and or stupid. So no matter what the herbal formula is, massive clinical trials will show that even a small percentage of people will have allergic reactions. They will get nausea. It may have influenced sleep at the minimum because we're introducing something new into the microbiome. So a certain percentage of people will have diarrhea or constipation. We know that. So it's important to look at what you're using and know, first of all, what the side effects are and when it's not appropriate. And the more evidence you have, the more you will know the prognosis, how long it takes to work, and who it's not good for. So there are herbal formulas that people will take for 3 days and say, I didn't feel anything. And I'll just say, yeah, obviously. What do you mean, obviously? Well, the median time to show effect in clinical trials for this particular formula is 2 weeks. That's the median time. Some outliers will have great effects within 2 days. Some people won't feel it for a month and a half. The median time is 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, if you're responding like the median people in these clinical trials, then you'll start to experience effects. And most people in those cases do. However, it's important to be honest and open, saying, will this be at the 2-day mark or the 3-week mark? I don't know, but here's the research I can point to. The more open and upfront you are with that, the more you will rightfully earn trust. So following up on this, are there established metrics? This is great because in China and increasingly in India and the Middle East, they'll look at herbal formulas and then do different tests. Maybe it's a lab test. They do the before, they do the after. It's very easy to know, okay, this herbal formula is liver protective traditionally. And then we look and see that it's dropping the ALT, AST levels. We can see that in a measurable way. And if you're going to invest your career and put your name behind something and your face behind something and say, hey, this is something you can trust, you want to know that it is not only ideal for the people and population and disease type that you're looking to treat, but also that there are metrics that can be demonstrated to show that it really does work. One of the differences between going to a health club that's very cheap versus very expensive is that basically the more higher end you go in life, the more metrics there are. Whether it's for medicine or weight loss or for buying really expensive tea, the higher up you go, the more that it's measured. So you want to make sure that there are measurements of the before and after that you can show objective data. 6. Is the proof of concept fast or slow? There are herbal formulas that take 3 months to work, to really make a dent in those lab tests, to make a dent in the objective metrics that we have. Is that proof of concept fast enough to get your client on board, or is it too long and we'll have them dropping out? So personally, I like to start with a proof of concept formula, which is what we've done with MicroGarden, that takes 2 to 3 days to show effect. It's a very fast proof of concept, and that removes all doubt of the legitimacy of the program that people are involved in. It's important to show that there are some fast effects, or to at least manage the expectations. So if it's going to take 3 months, they know from the onset that it's going to take 3 months. So just making sure that the expectations are in line with the proof of concept. 7. Is it legitimately better than conventional medicine, or is it simply in plant form? There are herbal medicines which work much better than Western medications. There are Western medications which work much better than herbal formulas. And some of the medications, pharmaceuticals out there, work better with fewer side effects. Yes, I know that's heresy for the host of Botanical Biohacking to be saying that, and yet it's true. So we want to make sure, okay, does this formula, maybe we have herbal antibiotics, but maybe the antibiotics are really safe, and maybe they're cheaper, and maybe people prefer them and they don't have a burning desire to use herbal antibiotics, and maybe the herbal antibiotics cause a lot of diarrhea and aren't ideal. It's hard to say, and that's something you'll need to look into, because you need to make sure that it's not just an alternative, it truly is enhancing. And the really good herbal medicines will work maybe through a slightly different pathway, like using interferon with Xiao Chai Hu Tang. Interferon damages the liver, Xiao Chai Hu Tang has liver protective capacity. Using them together, it's further dropping viral counts, but at the same time, it's ameliorating the side effects of the interferon. So that's a great combination to use together, because you're adding value rather than just providing an alternative. So it's important not to have an alternative for an alternative's sake, but to really enhance the value, because you wouldn't want to be treating your clients any differently than you would yourself or your mother. You want to be really delivering the highest level of value possible, because that then reflects on you and your position in society. If you're delivering low levels of value to people, you sink on that totem pole in society, and that will affect your own health. That will affect your serotonin levels. That will affect your immune system. The better the value you're able to deliver to society, the higher your social status becomes, and the better your health becomes as a correlation with that. So for no other reason than from a selfish point of view, make sure you're delivering exceptionally high value. Along these lines, number 8, is it something which is synergistic or antagonistic with conventional medications? There are herbal formulas which work really, really well, but you can't use them with Western medications. Now, if your demographic of people has used a Western med first, and then they come to you, is it really responsible to say, yeah, drop your medication and use this herb? Okay, why? Well, here's some research that shows that they work similarly. Okay, cool, but insurance is paying for my meds. So if you take that approach, and some people do, just understand that you're going to be coming face to face with a lot of people who are very hopeful, and they'll get disappointed, and you're forcing them to make a choice which, from their perception, and really from mine too, could potentially kill them. And that's a hard choice to make, and you're going to hear no a lot. And there's a good chance you might not be providing them with the optimum value. So you want to make sure that whatever herbs you're using are very synergistic with the medications which your client base will likely be on, and that it's removing side effects and enhancing the overall treatment. Number 9, Discover gatekeepers and influencers within this community, or go with direct target marketing. Now, there's an old-fashioned ways to do this, which I prefer, which is to look for gatekeepers and influencers within the community and demonstrate your value to them. This becomes very easy then to get other tribes and communities of people within this same larger group that you're going for to get on board very quickly. It provides social proof using Facebook, Google Analytics, and saying, okay, I'm looking for this exact group of people, and then targeting them, providing some social proof by getting testimonials from people they may respect, getting video testimonials, and starting with it. Which brings us to number 10. Collect testimonials and keep it real. Honesty and influence will win the day. Avoid short-term cash grabs. So this is very important. We can always get 10 testimonials. If you just make sugar pills, you'll get enough placebo effect and outliers saying that their knee pain is cured that you can put a lot of testimonials on a website saying that these sugar pills will cure knee pain. That is complete garbage. Don't do that. That will backfire severely in the long run. Likewise, you can fill a clinic with people saying that whatever you're doing is the most wonderful treatment on the planet. And you can do this just by advertising a lot, existing long enough, and then just waiting for the outliers to kind of stick around. So it's not proof of concept truly to have video testimonials or a clinic full of people. And it's important to reflect this honestly. So you're going to have video testimonials of people giving you glowing testimonials. And then you're going to have people who say, you know, it didn't cure me, but I have more good days than bad now. Avoid the temptation to stick with your glowing testimonials and give a pretty decent range. In fact, if you have 8 testimonials saying it's the most wonderful thing in the world, you probably should have one that says, you know, I really loved the treatment that I got, but in the long run, it wasn't a good fit for me. That is honest, and it's truthful, and it reflects what we find when we look at clinical trials. The best clinical trials may have a 70 to 80% success rate or effective rate. And the effective rate means these are the people who showed improvement. Out of that group, let's say the group of people within that subset of the effective rate who claimed that they had, you know, a curative effect or a very good effect, that may only be 30 people out of 100. The rest of the people will have some improvement, but it won't be a miracle cure. And there will always be people who are non-responders. If you have a clinical trial where everybody had a miraculous effect, that's probably a clinical trial of 30 people or under, and it's not a very good trial. The larger the trials, the more likely you are to find people who are non-responders, people who had negative effects, and people who had side effects. And while you want to be promoting and marketing, just trust me on this, you want to be honest with it, because that in the long run will demonstrate your trustworthiness, and then the value that you demonstrate being high value will gradually place you higher on the totem pole in society. So managing expectations, picking something which is very simple, understating and over-delivering are really your keys to success. So as an overview, I'm going to go over all of these 10 really quickly just to help it stick in your memory. Number 1, who are your people? Number 2, discover their main perceived needs and desires. Number 3, can you do this with grandma level over-the-counter care? Can you keep it simple? Number 4, is there evidence? Number 5, are there established metrics? Number 6, is the proof of concept fast or slow? Number 7, is it legitimately better than conventional medicine, or is it simply a plant form alternative? Number 8, is it something which is synergistic or antagonistic with conventional medications? Number 9, discover gatekeepers and influencers within the community. Can you find gatekeepers or influencers, or is it better to use direct targeted marketing? Number 10, can you collect honest testimonials and keep it real, or will you have to resort to hype? So these 10 should really help you focus in. No matter what level of herbal knowledge you have, it's a place that you can start benefiting a lot of people with integrity. I used to carry every herbal formula I could get my hands on. You can just imagine how this clogged up shelf space and mental space, plus it gave me a lot to dust every week. We looked at our most effective products, our automatic top sellers, and found that they coincided with the most popular and effective herbal products in East Asia. We decided to focus on the winners and then make them even better. Our research team in Chengdu upgraded these formulas using the highest quality herbs on the planet and rigorously testing them at pharmaceutical standard for quality and safety. You'll want to get your hands on this, and you'll get your supplies at botanicalbiohacking.com. Thanks for listening to the Botanical Biohacking Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Miles.